Hey, welcome back. It's been a while since I made a video, and this video is going to be an update to a previous video that I had made for landscapes. This video is going to be a replacement for video number 3 in the landscapes because Microdem, which is the primary software we're using to take the satellite imagery and convert it into a file format that we can use in World Machine, has had enough changes in it with buttonology and some of the names of the buttons and locations of the buttons that I think it's time for a change. And then also, we're not going to be able to use it to change or interpolate the pixels that are inside of the imagery. So usually satellite imagery that we're using is about 12.5 meters by 12.5 meters per pixel, and we want to get it down to 1 meter by 1 meter. But the interpolation function doesn't work the same in Microdem anymore. Not sure why. I'm still trying to work through that. But as a fix, for now, we really don't need it anyway, so it's going to save us some time. So what we're going to do is we're going to use Microdem to take the GeoTIFF, convert it to the size and file format that we need, and then put it into World Machine, and there we can add some levels of detail to get it back on track with closer to being 1 to 1 meter that Unreal Engine likes. The other thing is we're going to use Microdem to square off the imagery so that it's square, because both World Machine and Unreal Engine like them that way, at least the free version of World Machine that we're using. Okay? So all the software I'm about to show you is free, available for you to use and download. I'll show you where to download them. The links are down in the details for you to be able to get to them, and I'll also show them in the video. So if you have any questions, please hit me up in the detail or in the question section down below in the comment section, and I will try to get back to you as quickly as possible, of course. But let's go ahead and take a look at the demo. Okay, so get my head out of the way, and let's go ahead and hide this background. All right, so here is Unreal Engine 5.4, and this is the demo world that I put together. Now, I'll show you how to make this texture in later videos. We started this process with the material functions that we made in the last video, and we're going to use those material functions and a blended material that will allow you to be able to paint and put in roads and things like that and modify the texture by painting over the top of it. Okay, so wrong direction. Here is the world. It's 4 kilometers by 4 kilometers. This is the Mesquite Dunes, which is located in Death Valley, California. And the dunes section was missing data, so I ended up using a different lower portion of the area. But and then this material is actually more of a Nordic, Icelandic, rather, texturing and material to kind of give it a different look. Trying to go for more of a alien world, planet type thing. So anyway, that's one of the things you can do. Over here you see world partition, but I will show you all of this in later videos. Okay, so let's go ahead and close this out. And then, again, this is going to be part of the landscapes. So under the playlist, under landscapes, we'll get this added into that. So let's go ahead and talk about the software that we need first. So we're going to start with Microdem. Okay, Microdem at microdem.org is Peter Guth, is the creator of this. He's been using it for a number of years and creating it, updating it, keeping it working. So here is where we'll do the download. So I'm going to click the download. Okay, and then you'll get this little pop-up right here that'll tell you that it isn't commonly downloaded. If you hit the little 3 buttons, and this is in Microsoft Edge. If you're using a different browser, you're going to have to figure out how to do this because it may block it as well. But you can select keep, and then here under show more, say keep anyway, and it will download it for you. Okay, and now I've downloaded it earlier when I was running the test on this. So on mine, it comes in as for whatever reason a 7-zip file, but it is not. It's not compressed. You would just double click on it, and then you'll tell it to just say yes because it wants to install it on your C drive. It works the best if you leave it on the C drive. Just leave it there. Go ahead and say yes. Okay. I'm going to say no because I already have it installed. All right. So then the next thing is we're going to go to OSGeo4, which is this site right here. I have it down in the links below. This is GDAL, okay, or this is a website that provides you with a bunch of different tools for working with different imagery. And GDAL is one of the packages that we can get in here. You can see here QGIS, GDAL, Grass, and some other things. So what we're going to do is down here, if you scroll down just a little bit where it says Quick Start, okay, there's the download. You're going to run the installer, some instructions here. So we're going to go ahead and click on the network installer, okay, and it will download the network installer. You're going to go ahead and go to your downloads. Now I already have it on here, so if I double click on it, we want to do Express Install, okay, and we're going to say next, okay, and then it'll pop up, and these are the different packages you have a choice for. Now we only need GDAL for Microdem, so if you want to download those other ones and use them for other things, that's up to you, but GDAL is all we need. You would just say next after that, and then it will install it onto your computer, okay? And that was pretty much it, pretty fast. All right, the next thing we need is we're going to go to World Machine, okay? Now, World Machine, this is actually the landing page here for it, okay? And you can see there's a demo back here. All these different nodes. It's a node-based system that you can use to create original worlds. You can add all kinds of detail to them. Lots of tools that allow you to do that. You can add water features and all kinds of stuff. Now, we're going to use it for using a height map, okay? Which is another feature that you can do, which allows us to import. It allows us to import imagery, such as we're going to do from the NASA website, and then manipulate that imagery so that we can export it as a PNG, which is something that can be read by Unreal Engine. So it's kind of it's going to allow us to give a little bit more detail to the imagery that we've downloaded as well. So a couple different things we're going to do with it. All right. Okay. So what we're going to do is if we go to download, you'll see here that this describes the free community edition. It is going to limit you to the 1025 by 1025 pixels. Okay. This is not a limited trial. This is free forever, for as long as they decide to keep it free anyway. And the thing is that you also have the other stuff that's available in the Indie Edition. So what is that stuff that's available in the Indie Edition? So if we go to purchase, okay, this is the Indie Edition. So the Indie Edition, you're not limited to 1025 by 1025, but you do have only these types of capabilities, okay? You're limited by the number of threads that you can process with. You're also limited by the amount of memory your computer has for when you go to build your world, okay? And we'll talk about that when we get that far. If you wanted to build tiled worlds, so large terrains with massive world sizes, you would have to get the professional. Okay, that's this right here, tiled terrains. It talks about that. So the big worlds that you can move through. We're gonna make one that is 4 kilometers by 4 kilometers, and keep it inside of our free download size. Okay, so if you go to download, back here to the download button, just click download right there. Okay, and then it'll download. It takes a minute. Now I've already downloaded it, so we don't have to wait for it. It's this one right here. So if I go to my file folder for my downloads, right here, okay, it should say basic. Now you would double click on it, say yes, you would agree, you're going to tell it where you want to put it, click install. Okay, I already have it installed. I actually have the indie version, so it's the standard edition, but I'm going to keep mine at 1025 for this max build so that it's basically the same thing you have, okay? All right. That should be everything downloaded and installed that we're going to use. The other website that we need to visit, the other 2 websites, this one right here is NOAA, so it's the National Hurricane Center, NOAA.gov, and we're going to use this calculator tool to help us determine the size of our world. Okay, it's nautical miles is the default. We're going to change that when we get that far. We'll talk about it. The other website we need is this one right here, and let me go ahead and clear my search and zoom out. So when you first come into that and click on that link I give you, it should be of the whole world, something like this. Okay. Now, I have played around with it. We're going to use the data set. So the data set is our satellite or system that provided us with the imagery. We're going to use the Allos Pulsar right here, okay? Because this is the DEM, so the DEM digital elevation model that was created for using this imagery, okay? So they're going to have the DEM that we want. What else? So with the Allos Pulsar, there are other parts of the world that you can use this website to get DEM from. I played around with it in Egypt with the pyramids, although because the quality of the pixels is 12.5 meters per pixel, can't really tell that they're pyramids. All right, it's just sort of some bumps. And also in areas of Russia, I played around with it, in Europe. So it does, there are places that you can get. If you cannot find it, Video 3 Alpha, I talked a little bit about using the European Space Agency and some other systems to be able to find DEM that you're looking for, so DEM. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and stick to my script this time. And we're going to go into, I'm going to go here to California and then out into Death Valley National Park, and the area that I was working with is in this particular area here, and let's see, I think it was in this, it'll be close enough. All right, so because it's such a large area, and I had picked kind of some dunes areas, I think this was the area right down in here somewhere. Doesn't matter. All right. So I'm going to find just kind of a little spot down in here that looks kind of interesting. Oh, there they are, Mesquite Dunes right in here. All right, so Mesquite Dunes, it's a bunch of dunes you can kind of see as you zoom in a little bit here. This is the area I want to use, okay? So up here at the top, we're going to leave it in geographic search. We're going to change it to Allos Pulsar, okay? The area of interest, we're going to click and select our area of interest. We're not going to worry about the dates. And then when we get ready to search, we'll click the search button. So my mouse, if you see when I'm moving around here, it says click to draw. So just click one time, left mouse button click to select. Okay, something like that. And then it makes it, okay? And up here, area of interest, it gives me a polygon with the latitude, longitude areas listed up here. So then it says there's 250 of 300 files. I'm going to search them. And it's going to come up with this type of 54 scenes. I got 250 of 300 files. Over here on the left, kind of shrinks everything down. So if I zoom out a little bit, you can see that there are these big triangles out, or big rectangles out here. Okay, squares, rectangles. And these are all the different satellite imagery, those 250 files that are over here. So I click on one, you'll see it highlights in red if I hover over it. For example, this one. Okay. Now, this one right here was taken November 21st of 2010. It's a little bit older. And this one actually does have a resampled DEM for me. Okay. And if you wanted to find more information out about it, you can click here. Let's see what else we have here. Now, because this is in North America, there are a lot of DEMs. Sometimes the giveaway is this little image right here, the little image that has color in it. But that's not always the case, because this one you can see is black and white. It also is in the same area, and it also has a DEM. It's a little bit, let's see, is it a little older? It is a little older. So I'm going to go with the newest one, November. I'm going to select it. Over here on the right hand side, well, here in the middle, you can see what the scene details are. Okay, and you can actually click on it and bring it up and make it bigger. There's 3 different images that are listed here that are part of this set of tools. Some information about this mission here. It was ascending, tells you the path, the frame, all kinds of information. If you're really into finding all that out, you can go into the read first, or you can go here and click on the satellite and find out more information about the satellite and what it does. Okay, so some interesting information, but I'm not going to go into that here. So what we want is we want a high-res terrain corrected. Okay, so high-res terrain corrected, and you will need to make yourself an account. So you're going to have to sign up. You can't just go in and download it. You're going to have to sign up in order to get to this point. So if you haven't created an account, make sure you go in and create an account, and then come back here after you find your area that you want. You can click download, okay? And it's going to download. Now, this is going to take a couple of minutes, but if you've searched an area, you can't find something, or it wasn't what you thought it was, if you come back here, you hit the down arrow, you can always clear your search. All of this will go away, and then you can go back into the map and find a different spot. You can have saved searches. You can save your filters that you want to use. So any of these filters, okay. Over here, under other DACCs, there are other download sites. They're pretty much set up similar to this, but you may have to dig around just a little bit to find what you're looking for in some of these. So if you can't find a DEM and you absolutely have to have that spot that you're trying to find, try some of these other DACCs, or DAACs rather, okay, and see if you can find your imagery in there. Also, the European or the Japanese Space Agency may also have stuff for you as well. All right, so it's downloaded. So I'm going to go to my download file, and what it's going to be is this folder right here. Okay, it's zipped, so we're going to have to unzip it. I've already created a folder in my storage file, in my storage drive, so my D drive. So I'm going to right click on it. I am using 7-zip to extract this, but you can use extract all or some other extraction software that you have. So I'm going to use 7-zip, as I said. I'm going to go to extract files, and I'm going to tell it exactly where I want to put it in the D drive. And I have a folder called Sat Imagery, and I already have one called Mesquite Dunes rather, and I'm going to make a new folder in there, okay, and I'm just going to call this my demo, okay, because this is what I'm doing is a demo here. I could also name it something else more relevant, but I'm going to select that folder. I'm going to say okay, and then okay. It's going to unzip it, put it into there anyway. And then if I go to the storage drive, to my Sat Imagery, into Mesquite Dunes, go into demo, you can see it's named that same name for the mission number and all this other stuff right here, okay? And double click on it a couple times to get into it. We can see we've got several different image types, some of which were that were down here. And then we also have this .dem right here. And it looks like, unfortunately, this one, see this big white spot here in the center? It doesn't have data right there for whatever reason. So this is what I ran into last time when I was trying to work this area. And guess what? That happens to be, if I move this over, okay, and then pull this up, I believe that happens to be exactly the area that I want, which is right in here. So those dunes are not going to be visible this time. So we're going to come up with a backup plan while we're running, and that'll be all right. Okay, so we have it. Let's go ahead and find Microdem. So we're going to open up Microdem. Close this. Actually, I just reminded. So how we're going to find Microdem? Actually, I need that open. All right, so we're going to right click and we're going to open the new window because it's on the C drive. So I'm going to go into my C drive, and right in here should be a file folder called Microdem. Okay, you can double click on it. This right here is the application, Microdem. Okay, you can always put a shortcut on your desktop if this is something you're going to revisit a lot. Otherwise, you're going to have to come find it every time in the C drive. It will not show up in your program files. It's not a program like that. Okay, so I'm going to double click on it. open it up. This right here just tells you what version we have, talks about the changes and some other things. You can also change your options from here, which is what we're going to do real quick. I'm going to click on options, okay? And one of the things we can do with Microdem, if we go to hardware, okay, right here it says max active threads. By default, it's usually set to 4, I think, okay? It'll tell you here how many processors you have, and it'll give you your total number right in here. I have 48 threads, so I'm going to click my 48 and put 48 in here. That'll make it so that it processes a lot faster. Now, when you're doing some other things, you'll be thankful for that. The other thing we want to go to is directories, okay? Right here in directories, if you click here next to GDAL, it should automatically load your location. So if you didn't change it, it should be in the C drive. OSGO4W bin, okay? It should be right there. Okay, so when you double click on it, or when you click on it, it should pop it in there for you. These other ones, don't worry about. Map data is a file that it creates. You don't need to worry about that right now either. All right, those are the only things we're going to change here. Okay, so now I'm going to close this. So let's go ahead and open up. So go to File, go to Open Dem Grid. Okay, and now we're going to go into Mesquite Dunes. To my demo file, 2 of these folders, and then this is the dem, right? See, it says .dem at the end. So I'm gonna open that up. Mine has this big white spot in the middle. Hopefully yours does not have that, especially if it's the spot that you wanted. I'm gonna go ahead and open that up, okay? But this gives me the opportunity to kind of talk a little bit about stuff like that, okay? Now, I have used and downloaded this and used different satellites. For whatever reason, this area is always white. I don't know why. I haven't dug through every single one of them, but you can see over here on the right-hand side, it's white. This is white as well. No data, okay? So this is not going to do me any good, and this is where the exact dunes that I wanted were. But I might be able to get something kind of in this area here. This will give me some terrain features as well. So purple is usually at sea level, and this may be below sea level, and that may be why it's not working. All right, but so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and I'm going to pick this area here. Now, yours may look a little bit different than mine because I've already customized mine a little bit. So if I right-click here on the map, okay, right here, Legends and Marginalia, I have turned off my elevation grid value, but yours is probably on, so I'm going to turn that back on, and my scale bar is on right here, and my terrain categories will come on when I say OK. So now there is my grid down here. My length, this is 25 kilometers, this distance right here, so this is much wider. And then right here, this tells you my elevations from 0 to above 1,500 meters, so probably almost 2,000 meters. Seems a little high. Maybe not that much, but anyway. All right, and the other thing you probably have is also your grid. So if I click on grid, right here, lat long is probably on yours, you can see. I'm going to turn that off. Don't really need it. So I'm going to say neither. I say OK. And if you want to turn these other things off as well, I don't really need to know the elevation height right now. So I'm going to turn off my elevation grid values. Say OK. That's going to go away, but I am going to leave this down here because this will be a useful tool to help measure as we try to get it down to our 4 kilometer square. So find an area in your downloaded imagery that you want to use, okay, for your first go around and making a game. I'm going to pick this area right in here. It looks kind of interesting. There might be some dunes in here, but I'm not sure. So I'm going to find a backup plan, something that looks kind of might be kind of fun to have a game around. All right, so I'm going to pick this spot right here. I'm going to click this little subset and zoom right here, so it's like a little square with an arrow on the corner. And I'm going to just kind of grab this right here. Now it's probably going to be a lot bigger than I need it to be. I'm going to try to avoid the no data area. Okay. And now what it's done is it has zoomed in, and yeah, it's got some kind of cool stuff happening here. Okay. So I should have some mountains in the background and this kind of raised area here and some terrain stuff happening out here. All right, but I don't know how big it is, right? So let's go up here to info, Okay, and I'm going to go to map, and it's going to tell me about this map. Okay, the screen pixels for the area that I cut out is 1115 by 1055, so I got pretty close. The pixel size, screen size doesn't really matter. Here is our 12.5 meters by 12.5 meters for our pixels. So every pixel is equal to about 12.5 meters. Our altitudes from 1 meter all the way up to 2730. Yours is going to be different, so that's your Z range right here. This UTM 11 November, this is where the map is, part of. And then down here, here's our Latin long. And we're going to end up using this, so I'm going to go ahead and move this to the side here. I am going to close Microdem, probably, well, I'll minimize that, I'm going to need that later. And then I need to open up the lat long here. Okay, so I have my lat long set up here. I'm going to go ahead and reset that. Okay, and change this from nautical miles to kilometers. The first thing I want to do is my northwest, so that's this top left-hand corner. Northeast is this corner over here. Southwest is the bottom left-hand corner. Southeast is the bottom right-hand corner. So you see northwest, northeast, southwest, southeast, okay? So these are our corners. I want to know the distance from this corner to that corner. And let me see, is this map actually, it looks like, I'm going to close this for a second. So if I left mouse click and drag, I can move this up and down, okay? Left click and drag. So down here is my bottom area, right? So all the way down there is where that corner is going to be. And it looks like it's fit within this space right here. So we should be good to go. So let me go back in, get my info, map. I'm going to go ahead and type in this information here. So northwest, so it's my northing, so north right here. And this is west, see, and it corresponds to north and west over here in the calculator. So we can only go out to 2 decimals. So I'm going to go 36.77. This doesn't need to be rounded up. So this first one right here is going to be 36.77, okay? And then the westing piece of this corner is 117.32, but I have an 8, so I'm going to round that up to 33, okay? And later on we'll clean that up a little bit, and I'll show you how we're going to do that when we go to square the map. Okay, so this is going to be 33, all right? And then I'm going to go across the top first, so I'm going to pick my northeast side here. So this, because it's in the north, should be the same, assuming that the satellite this wasn't kind of curved or something. And it's not. And then this bottom one is going to be also 117, but it's going to be 0.19, okay? And this is going to be kind of a big spot, I think. Yeah, it's going to be 12 kilometers still. So this is kind of a large area still, 12 kilometers across. And we can tell that when we take a look at this right here. This is 5 kilometers, this little scale right here. So it's quite big. I want to get it so that I'm actually using these 4 spaces here, right? So I want 4 kilometers by 4 kilometers. You can tell that's going to be kind of a strange kind of space here. So what I'm going to do again is I'm going to click here, and I'm going to drag across, kind of estimating this to be about 4 of those down there. I'm going to try to capture that there in that little bowl. Make this kind of look squarish. Something like that maybe. Alright, and it's going to zoom in again. And now this again is my area, but now if you notice I have the ability to kind of scroll left and right, up and down. And that's probably because I've narrowed it down in this window right here. And if we take a look at this, it says 2.5 kilometers. So this is probably still a little too big. Okay. But let's just double check. Okay, usually if we get this down to 1,000 meters, we're pretty close. Okay. But we're going to double check one more time, just go through that process again. So it should be 3674 now, and 11732. Yeah, 32. So it did shrink quite a bit. And this is going to be 3674 11725. 725. All right, we got down to 6 kilometers. So one more go at this, and we get close. So again, I only want about 4 of those. So if I see here, where I want this to be at. I think maybe if I just kind of capture this space in here. All right, one more try at this. Info map. Now it may take you a few attempts at this, only because you haven't done this before. And there are some quicker ways to do this, and wow, that really didn't change. 3674, 3632, 3674. This is now 27, so it's bringing it down. Actually, I'm going to round that up to 28 because that's pretty close. Compute that again. Okay, now we got 4 kilometers. Okay, but it's not going to be really square. And the left to right are our columns because columns go down, and then this would be rows. Okay, so rows. So what we're going to do is we're going to right click here. I'm going to go to modify map area. Once you get this far and you get the first 1 to 4 kilometers, we're going to select keyboard corners. And why I was talking about columns and rows, okay? So 305 are columns, and it looks like 300 are rows, so we're actually pretty close. Now, we haven't saved this map, we haven't cropped this map, so all of the data is actually here. You see these little green arrows on the corners? These little green arrows will take us to different portions of the map, so we can readjust as we wanted, if we wanted to be able to get the area that we want in case we missed it when we kind of did our little thing. So we can also take advantage of that because we can make it so that we know that across our columns and they're 305, but our rows are only 300. Now we want to square this so we have the same number of pixels, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it so that the top to bottom is actually matches the 305, but right now I only have 300. So I need to actually make it a little longer. So let me see here. So you can see it goes down, right? So 3544, 3245. So the numbers descend as we go down. So we actually want to make it a little longer. So we want to make this, I believe, 9. I think we want to add 5 to that. Okay, there we go. So we're going to add 5. Now you might have to play around with it, sometimes adding or subtracting from one side or the other to get the distance you want and to also adjust the map to where you want it to be. Okay, once we're done with that, I'm going to say okay. All right, so now the next step is to save this, okay? So I'm going to go to File, Save Dem Grid, Current Subset, and then I'm going to actually jump back out of here because remember it should be my demo. So I'm going to put it in here. Okay, I'm going to put it in the top folder. I'm not going to go inside there. And I'm just going to call this Mesquite Dunes 2 since I've done this once already. All right, and I'm going to call this underscore 4 km for 4 kilometers, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and save that. And I'm going to say yes, I want to open it, okay? And now that we've got that, okay, it opens up again. I'm going to close the old one, keep the new one open. This is what we're going to save. We're going to export this. Now in the past, we used to interpolate it, and we also used to do a raster filter, and then we would do a median filter and a mean filter. Those would take and could take several hours depending on your processor speed and how many threads you have. But we're not going to do that because it's not working right. And we don't really need it anyway to get a really nice looking map. So what we're going to do is, again, go back here to File. We're going to hover over Save Dem Grid, and we're going to save it as a GeoTIFF. Okay. And again, I'm going to go back into make sure I'm in my demo folder. It's a GeoTIFF. I'm going to go ahead and just save it the same name because it's going to be a GeoTIFF. Okay. So I'm going to save it. And now if I go into my folder, there we go. Up to demo. There it is right there. This is a GeoTIFF. It's all black. And that's perfectly fine because the data we need is inside that. World machine should be able to read that, and we're going to go ahead and find out real quick here. So I'm going to minimize that. Now the other thing we want to do is leave Microdem open for right now. I'm going to click on the map, and I want to know what my Z range is. Now you can write this down if you want to, or you can just leave Microdem open. So I'm going to leave it open. Here's my Z range, 63 to 778. And because we're going to need to make a modification inside of World Machine, which is something we didn't have to do before. So now I'm going to open up World Machine. And this is actually a program, so it should open the same as any other program on your computer. Okay. All right. So with World Machine, what we can do is yours probably opens up with a, let's see here, example world. Yours probably opens with an example world, probably like tutorial 1 or something like that. It'll look like something like this, okay? And that's fine. Mine doesn't do that anymore because I accidentally broke it and I had to fix it. So now if you highlight it, so you can just click and drag, like I did, left mouse, click and drag, and hit delete. We're gonna get rid of those, and we want a blank space. And in fact, you can also just go to New World, but a lot of times it'll have a template world on it. When you do that, same thing, New World, delete the other one, and then we can save it, all right? So I'm gonna save this world as, I'm going to go into my storage. I like to put them with my satellite imagery because those are where I'm working with to create these worlds. So I usually put it in a folder that I've already created for that particular one. I'm going to put it here in this, and I'm going to create a new folder inside of here. I'm going to call this my height underscore slope. Okay, so now that I got that done, I'm just going to go ahead and double click on that. And I'm going to change this to Mesquite Dune 2. All right, I'm going to go ahead and save that. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about what we have here. Okay, we have, well, it looks like a bunch of buttons. And these buttons do different things for opening, closing folders, files. There's a little open example world here. You can save your world, export, project settings. We're going to go ahead and go into project settings first. So I'm going to click on project settings, that little scale with the green thing next to it. And mine, I'm changing mine to 1025. Yours is maxed at 1025. Put it up to 1025. And if you click on it, you'll see that there's also different things that you can do. I'm going to leave this at power of 2 plus 1. That's kind of the way that Unreal Engine works. So we'll get into that shortly. I have to open that up. All right, and we're going to leave all of that alone. The next thing I'm going to do is, now this by default is usually 4 kilometers. I'm going to leave this for the moment, and then we may come back to it and have to make some changes, okay? So I'm just going to say okay. All right, the other thing we can do is if we go across here, you may or may not have this ability to click on that little button and then it creates an additional world here. I can't remember. I thought you had all the same features. But anyway, if you click on this, you'll end up creating another little X here. This is a 3D map. It's a bigger one than this one, but it's pretty much the same thing. Okay. And this is called Treasure Island. Okay, don't worry about that. Okay. Right here's our build button. We'll come back to this later when we build the worlds. We're not going to worry about these. We're not doing a tiled world because we can't. All right, so the next thing we want to do is down along here we have different tabs. These are some of the things we are going to use, okay? So the first one is generator. I'm going to click on generator. Right here is a little floppy disk. Click on that. This is how we're going to get the file we just created into our world, okay? These other generators are if you're going to make your own custom world using World Machine all by itself. There's tutorials out there for you to watch for those, so I'm not going to get into that. So right here on the file input, if you double click on it, it'll open up your folder here, okay? Input properties. So click on the little folder next to file name, and we're going to go into here. Now I didn't put these in the slope maps folder, but I did. It's interesting I say that in there. I don't know why, but anyway, okay. So Mesquite Dune, we're going to click on that because it's the TIFF file that we want. Remember, mine's black. Yours might be white. It can be white or black. We go ahead and say open, okay? And when I open that up, I get this really kind of sad blue spot. And that's probably because on the project settings, mine is not set to default. So if I go to 4 kilometers, it'll change it. It's still kind of a sad blue spot. All right. So the way we're going to fix this is down here we're going to. Oh, I must have moved it around. Okay. So down here where it says elevation, scaling type, I'm going to hit the down arrow. Okay. And we're going to go to specify range, okay? And when I click on that, all of a sudden, I get something, right? Now, right now, the elevation span is set to the default 0 to 2650, right? Mine really wasn't that big. But that's what we kept Microdem open for while you wrote this down. So my minimum is 63, and my max is 778. So 63... and then 778, okay? And now it kind of squished it down a little bit because this is the reality of that spot that I was in. Okay, this is what it actually looks like. So it's still a pretty significant elevation span from 63 meters up to 778 meters. And if I go back here to project settings, and because this 4 kilometers is set by default to 4 kilometers, if I change this down to about 1 kilometer, say okay, what it does is kind of pops that like that. And if I hit fit current scene, okay, it didn't change it. Now we get a little bit better feel for what it should look like, and it's got the elevation curves in there. Okay, all right, so that's kind of the start. I'm going to go ahead and close this. We don't need this open anymore. There is this little button down here for show advanced settings, but we're not playing with anything else. We're just going to leave this the way it is. I'm going to go ahead and close it. Okay. Next thing we're going to do is if we hover over this and we drag out from the top one, kind of like in Unreal Engine, you'll get these node options, right? So what I want to do is I'm going to add some erosion to this. So I'm going to select erosion, okay? And double click on erosion, and this gives you a bunch of different settings. I'm going to show advanced settings here. And what we can do, and if I zoom in a little bit, you'll be able to see it a little bit more. This isn't a terribly high area, so it's going to be kind of hard to see until I actually get it into Unreal Engine. But we can play around with things. So like right now 100 is the multiplier. I'm going to bump it up some, give it some more erosion time. I'm going to increase the hardness of the rock, decrease the sediment carry amount. I'm going to leave the multiplier alone. I'm not going to, because this is so thin, I'm not going to do any uplift. But if you wanted more sediment in your area, you can do some uplift. Leave that. I'm going to add some channeling though, and instead of standard erosion, I'm going to do channeled erosion. I kind of like the way this looks when I do that. I'm going to make this depth deeper, and you can kind of see that it's beginning to kind of put some grooves into the terrain here. If you have taller mountains and things, you'll be able to see that a little bit better on yours, but you can kind of see that here. I'm getting some effect here. And I'm going to do a little bit of post-channeling erosion so that it kind of smooths out a little bit in the process. And I'm going to go ahead and close it. All right. So now, how do we get this out of here? We've got to do some outputs. All right. So I'm going to go up here to output, and we can also click and drag from here too. What we're going to want to do first, yeah, we'll do that first. Okay. So since we're on output, this is where the output file is, right? So I'm going to click on that. This is your height output. I'm going to click and drag that top one onto there. I'm going to double click on it. We're going to give it a name, okay? So this is going to be my mesquite dunes, whatever yours is named. I'm going to put an underscore between dunes and height. I'm going to change the output to map. Okay, and then that way I know it's my height map, because this is going to be the actual thing that's going to create your world inside of Unreal Engine. Alright, so now for a file name down here where it's going to go, if I click on that, it's going to go in my height slope maps. Okay, remember I made that height slope maps in here? Okay, I'm going to select that folder, change it from 8-bit raw to PNG down here. I'm going to click save that. I'm going to output file on build, okay? And we can also click write disk right here, write to disk. And if I do that, it'll say it was successfully written. And if I go back into that folder, there it is right there. There's my height map, okay? That's what it looks like. All right, so that's one piece of it. But we also need some slope maps, sorry. I'm going to close that. Now, again, we can do it a couple different ways. We can go into these and find where the slope maps are, which are under selector, or we can drag out from here, and you'll see that select slope is one of the top 3 on here. It's used quite a bit. Okay, and when I click on it, it turns everything white because my terrain is so flat. So if I double click on it, in the videos for making the textures and stuff, I refer to this as grass, dirt, and rock. But really what it is it's kind of the low, medium, and high slope, okay? Or low, medium, and steep slope. So I'm going to call this one my low slope, okay? And right here, my slope range, I'm going to drop this down kind of low because my terrain's so low. I'm going to change my fall off. And this really is not doing what I want it to do. I have to push that really far down there to be able to get any change. Okay, because this is such a flat area. Okay. All right, so now I've got some there, and I'm actually probably going to change my fall off to 0. Okay, now the fall off and the angle here is what's going to determine where our future material is going to be, because we're going to use the slope maps to tell Unreal Engine where to add our textures, okay? And in this case, this is going to be my low area, my low slope, so it might be grass or sand or gravel, dirt, whatever, to cover this area. And this is all the white areas where it's going to be at. Okay, so again, this is not a very steep area, so I'm going to go ahead and close that. And we're going to need an output from this. Okay, so we're going to do a height output from that. Double click on it, and again, we're going to call this low slope. Okay, we're going to click on the folder again, make sure it's going where we want it to go. We're going to go ahead and make this a PNG. Save that. Output from every build, and let's go ahead and click write to disk. If we went back in there, you would see that it's there. I'm going to go ahead and close that. Now we need 2 more of these, all right? So again, we can either drag out from here, or we can click here, get one of those, click here, get one of those. All right, so I'm going to go a little faster now. So this is going to be my medium slope, okay? I need to connect it up, okay? this one, I'll come back to that one in a minute actually. Let's finish this up. Alright, so the other one started at, like, I think it ended at 5, so I'm going to put it at 5.5. Drag this one down, put this at 0. So this is going to be kind of that medium area in between, right? And I'm going to really kind of make this narrow too. Now, that's what I'm doing for mine. When you're working on yours, if you have really tall mountains, like you're working on an alpine type area, you may want to have these being different numbers and maybe bigger, and even have some fall off so that there's some overlap between the two. This particular map I'm working with doesn't have that, but I will show you what one looks like for another project so that you can kind of see. Alright, so now that's done, I'm going to close it. Again, we're going to need another output. This one's going to be called low slope. Okay, I'm just going to call it low slope. Or no, I'm sorry, medium slope. Okay, and then again, make sure it's going where we want it. Change it to a PNG. Save it. Output, write to disk. Okay. Close it. Last one. This one is going to be our steep slope. Okay. This one will be up high, and it's going to be something like that. Actually, I'm going to have a little bit of fall off on this one just so we get something in there. All right, I'm going to close it. We need another output. This one will be called steep slope. Okay. It's going to be the PNG. And we're going to write to disk. Okay, close. Now, I wrote them to disk. The other thing you can do, if it takes more time for it to output when you're doing that, you can always hit the build button and it'll go through the process and it'll build it for you. But these are all the maps we're going to need for Unreal Engine. And now we have them in our folder. Okay, and we also have the project here as well. All right, so now let's go ahead and real quick, I'm just going to show you a different project so you can kind of get a feel for that first one that I opened up. My terrain was much higher. If I click on that, you can see that's what that world was, much higher than the other one was that I was just working with. And each of these slopes are different, and I have a much more space to work with here. See, 15 to 33, I have a little bit of fall off. Okay, so 0 to 16, overlapped a little bit there, overlapped a little bit here, and have a little bit of fall off for each of these. Okay, so just again, you're going to modify it to what your world's like and what you want it to be. Think about it this way: the flat area is going to be your dirt, sand, gravel, grass, whatever. This is going to be the area. The next one up is going to be the medium, and that medium is going to be like loose materials that are coming down the side of a mountain. Could be dirt, could be rock, might even be some type of grass mixed in with it. And then the very white top areas up here, these are going to be your steep slopes, so it's going to be rock, like a mountain cliffside, those type of things. All right, so it's something to think about. All right, so let me go ahead and save world, close this. Okay, so now we can close Microdem. We're done playing with that. Minimize that, and we're probably done with that too. All right, so now let's take a look at Epic. Okay, so go to Epic, open up Unreal Engine, and create a new project. Or you can use the project from videos 1 and video 2, so that you can use the material that are already in them. Okay. All right, so I'm just going to make a third person again. We'll call this Heat Demo. Okay, and just put at my projects. Okay, on pause while this builds. Okay, so we're back now. Okay, so here's the default third-person template. What I'm going to do is kind of minimize a couple of these folders until I get to the lighting. I'm going to click on the directional lighting, hold shift, and select all the way down to the volumetric cloud. I'm going to hit Control C to copy it. Okay, and then I'm going to go up to File, New Level. I'm going to select this empty open world right here, empty open world. I'm going to hit Create. It's going to be nice and dark. I'm going to click on the untitled right here, hit Control V to paste it. And now I've got light in my world. I'm going to go ahead and save this, save current level as, and I'm just going to call this what my area is, Mesquite Dunes. I'll call it Mesquite Dunes 2. I'm going to go ahead and save this. Yeah, I'll just save it there. Normally I would make a folder for it, but that's all right. All right, so now we just have this generic kind of thing happening here. What we need to do now is we need to pull our world in. So we're going to go to selection mode, select landscape, import from file right here, and then right here where it says height map file, I'm going to click on that little folder, and I'm going to go to my SAT imagery, Mesquite Dunes, demo. I'm going to find this height map right here that we created. I'm going to say open, okay? Kind of what it is, all right? 1025 by 1025. I'm going to leave all this alone, and I'm going to go ahead and hit import. Almost done here, folks. Hopefully keep this under an hour. I'm going to pause it for a second while it builds this. Okay, so here we are, we're back. If I zoom in down here, this is where my actual world is, but you notice it kind of disappeared. There's nothing here. So I'm going to double click on this one and still nothing. So I'm going to highlight these. So left mouse click. This is under world partition. I should probably explain that to you. Go to window and then go down to right here, world partition, and you want the world partition editor, and that'll open this up, okay? And then left mouse click, right click, load selection, and then it'll load it, okay? And wow, that was that one section back over there. What's going on back there? All right, so quite a bit more to it than it looked like, but we have to remember also, if we take a look down here with this world partition, we got 1.07 by 1.07, so it's been shrunk down, okay? When we go to stretch this out, it's actually going to be a lot flatter, okay? So that's one of the things we're going to do real quick. Let's go ahead and deal with this. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to say rebuild my actors. Now, if your world ever ends up disappearing, coming over here and building this is what will fix that. I'm not sure what this is off here in the distance, unless I clipped it somehow, but that's interesting. Okay, so what we're going to do is go back over here to landscape mode. I'm going to select selection, go to my outliner, and then we want to pick the top one right here, because if we hit the down arrow, you see you have all these sub parts. We want the very top one. If we go to details, we're going to go ahead and change this to 400 because it should be 4 times the size that it is right now. And if you hit tab, it should change everything. And now it's going to smooth out my world a little bit. Okay. It's still pretty big. And if I take a look at the world partition, it's going to show that it's bigger than it was. We're going to need to rebuild. And we've also had some additional regions here that, because this didn't come out to be perfectly 4 kilometers, you'll run into this sometimes. And that might be where that square is coming from on me too, right along here. So those are something that I could probably delete since that area out there is not necessary. But we'll talk about that in a minute. Let's go ahead and once again rebuild this partition. So I'm going to go up to here to where it says build, and I'm going to build my world partition editor minimap, save the selected, and pause while this builds. Okay, so now our world has built, and it's kind of hard to see, so I'm going to turn off the exponential height fog, and you can kind of see what we've got to work with here. And according to this, we're now at 4.28 and 0.39 kilometers. Now, if we remember, mine was almost a half a kilometer tall, so yeah. And let's change the camera speed so we can kind of fly around this a little faster. Not sure what happened here at the end. Some data got brought in that didn't need to be brought in. Alright, so this looks like what I could do probably is select all of that, delete it, and then it looks like that's probably all of that. Oops, nope, that's not what I want to do. That one, that one. Okay, so it's all of the 8s. So see here, 6, 8, 7, 8, probably 5, 8, yeah, 4, 8, 3, 8, 2, 8. Just to double check, make sure that's everything. Okay, and then delete that. All right, so that is unexpected, but that's how you can fix something like that. Select it, make sure we save it. Okay, so we could, at this point, if I were to rebuild this, it would probably change that. But let me go ahead and do that real quick while I'm talking to y'all. Alright, so that's it for this video. It ran just a little longer than I wanted it to, but now you have a really nice looking world based off of real world locations using height maps. You understand the process of how to convert it and get it in there, and get everything all set up so that you can create a world that you can then start adding textures, materials to, foliage and things like that, which are things I show you in the next video. So video 3A, I haven't changed it, I may not, but 3A shows you how to use maps, find maps from other locations in other parts of the world if you're not using North America, or you can't find a DEM on that site we were just on. And then 4 and on will show you how to make the more complicated materials, how to paint, and add foliage and things like that using procedural processes. So again, if you have any questions, hit me up in the comments section, and I will get back to you. I appreciate you watching, and if you would, please subscribe to my channel. I would appreciate it. Putting on the Fritz 3D visualization, and I will see you next time.